Okay, you guys can stop holding your breath now. Today, we're gonna finish putting together the Rawnstercross. Now, the slightly eagle-eyed of you for sure will already have some of the more obvious things figured out. We're missing a derailleur. There's no crankset on here, as a matter of fact. Last time we tried to put a crankset on this bike, no bueno. The brakes, we still need to kind of like figure out. Though figuring it out in this case is just reusing what was on there before. I can't be bothered to get something new. A chain and bar tape. Now what is less obvious is what we're actually going to do. Hell yeah, brother, we're going 11 speed. Now, I'm well aware that we've spoken about going 11 speed on this bike before, but I kind of didn't think that it was going to happen until Mike over at Locked In took apart his Poseidon X and took all these parts off and offered them up for this build. Those parts on that bike will be living on in the world of YouTube cyclery, rightfully so, through the Rawnstercross. Mike, myself, and the Rawnstercross very much appreciate your contribution to the build. If you're unfamiliar with the Locked In channel, go check it out here. Though if you're watching this channel, there's no way you're not familiar with this channel. Let's see what we're getting into. First up, Rival 1x11 shifters, just the brake lever on the left, 11 speed for the right. They are the new style 11 speed hoods, which just overall look cooler than the older 10 speed hoods. A SRAM S-Series crank, the aluminum one, with a Force 11 speed 1x40 tooth X-Sync chainring. These cranks out of the S-Series lineup, they're like pretty similar to what an Omnium is. Typical GXP bottom bracket that past Eric didn't look out for future Eric with and lost the seals. So essentially the whole crank bottom bracket area after today is going to be useless. It won't actually work, but it will allow me to put everything together. It just won't be like rideable. Which is fine because it's gonna be like -20 this week. I'll just go get a bottom bracket this week. 11 speed chain. SRAM Apex 1 rear derailleur, 11 speed. I have this on my cross race bike. It'll be on the Rawnstercross as well. It works fine. This bar tape is the same stuff that is on the Chinelli right now, just in black. It's the stuff that was sent over from Marquis, and I haven't heard from them since I did that video. So Eric at Marquis, if you're still watching these videos, hey, I'm using the bar tape you guys sent me. 3T Ergosum bars. These came off of a felt. These were on the Crux cantilever race bike for all of the last year, I guess. Okay, now that we've got that all out of the way, I'm like super excited to get started on this. So I'm just gonna do it. Obviously, step one is getting this rotor bottom bracket that is not going to work for any sort of rotor crank that I have out. I'm kind of hoping that I can get a use out of these bottom bracket bearing cups through the BB386 crankset that's on the Poseidon right now. If that's the case, then A+. See how much play is between the spindle and the bottom bracket here? That's because SRAM bottom brackets use a small like plastic reducer as its seal and a spot for the crank and the bearing to like mate between each other. Without it, you get that. Like I said, I'm not concerned about that right now because I'm not really putting anything on as tight as you're supposed to or having any thoughts in my mind that I'm going to be riding this tonight. Really, this bottom bracket area, the crank, all that good stuff, it's all for looks tonight. Unusable, but visually appealing. Consider it like one of those big lifted trucks that you'd see at SEMA. Looks kind of neat, get up close, not really greatly executed. Remember the time that I took a grinder to the Omnium so that they would fit the silver fixed gear? And I was like, geez, maybe I shouldn't do this. It's just good to know that like other people feel the same way and also make YouTube videos. That's probably my favorite thing ever about these cranks. Nothing a Sharpie won't fix. Generally always when I finish some sort of build, I'll always take like the 10 minutes after the last thing got done and just like sit here and look at it and just have that satisfied feeling of a completed job. Well done in some cases, but just take it all in. And somewhat reflecting on whether or not the initial finished product really lived up to what my expectations really were. And to be honest with you, in almost every case, usually it doesn't live up to what I was hoping it would be. Initially, that is. Once I come back in tomorrow and look at most projects, I'm typically pretty ecstatic about the final product. You know what that's like when you had this image in your head, you knew what you wanted it to kind of come out like, and then here's the physical thing in front of you now. This is what you've created, and this is what you're going to live with. Sometimes they don't match up. In this case, it's like 75-25. 75% exactly what I was hoping for, 25 not so much. There are two main spots that I'm not overjoyed about. I could live with, but not overjoyed about. Number one, this denim, geez, I don't even remember what kind of saddle these are. Regardless, I think a black saddle is going to suit this build better. I'm kind of thinking something like a Physique Aliante. I like that shape. I like the way the black looks. And then sort of related, but not number two. I don't like the setback seat post. And then two, the tires. Remember when I was like excited to put these tires on and thought they would look like really cool and that they would be like awesome on there and it would look more like a road bike, but it's turns out that with it like this and it being the Rawnstercross, something doesn't feel right about these tires. I'm thinking that it pretty much always needs to live with something somewhat huge, but I still want them to be smooth. So like, I don't know, maybe a set of specialized Fat Boy 29er tires or like the WTB, the Horizon. Can you get that in 700? I'm looking right now, but I don't know. If not, I'll get a set of Gravel Kings, it looks like, that I could get here. Yep, those will work. Anyway, something a little bigger to take up all the space that this bike has to offer and smoother. Besides all that, everything came out exactly the way I was hoping it would. Case in point, I love the shape of the SRAM 11-speed shifters. I think they look better, they feel nicer, and overall, it brings the front end of the bike into the 21st century. Being like an older frame set, this, I find, makes it a little harder to tell. The chainring. At first, I wouldn't have thought that a SRAM chainring would have been my first choice, but the silver on the chainring really complements the polish of the frame way nicer than I give credit. I thought I wanted to put different brakes on, but I do not give avid Shorty 6s enough credit. Even when you set them up poorly, they work pretty good. Also, I've been really waiting for a long time to find a good use for this other marquee bar tape, and I'm pretty happy with the choice that I've made. This stuff is super grippy, it's really comfortable. I kind of wish that I had to put it on bikes sooner so that Marky could see me using it more often so that maybe I could work with them more. The next step is just doing all those final touches. A new hood, because this one's ripped here and a little harder to see right here. Obviously, we need a new bottom bracket. I'd really like to get it outside so that I can hose off all this like old road salt and like the California dirt that got shipped to me by Mike. Along with, and this is the most important part, a big spin decal to go under here. Anyway, I'm excited to ride it. I'm a little bit sad that I have it in my head that I shouldn't ride it in poor weather conditions now because I put so much effort into like polishing the frame and I don't want to ruin like the nice parts that are on it. But I imagine that will leave my mind shortly after I get the bike actually together into a rideable state. But at this point, here it is, done. Okay, I don't know. Maybe the tires are growing on me a little bit. It's impossible to say because anyway, it's dark and cold out now, so obviously we can't go outside and shoot any like nice footage of it. And I kind of want to save that to the point where the bike is actually like ready to ride anyway. So catch that on some sort of upload coming up soon. Thankfully, it shouldn't take too long, especially with the support of everybody on Patreon, everybody buying stuff through the Amazon links below, the people that have bought stuff through the those of you who will likely buy merch from the stuff that's being made right now. All that helps immensely towards getting stuff like this on the go a lot sooner. I can't thank everyone who's supported the channel enough. I really appreciate all the effort that everybody has put in for the efforts that I put out. I'm happy to have this thing back together.